So I'm just going to talk a little bit about using your mind's eye when you're playing the harmonica. So like if you're playing guitar and piano and drums and saxophone, etc., it allows you to see your hands while you're playing. And playing the harmonica, you really can't see what you're playing. You have to play by feeling where your mouth is on the harp, while you're playing. So, and this one day, this was a long time. This was before the internet, and I was just kind of learning the harmonica. I didn't really buy any books, and it was not. I mean, you're just kind of just fiddling around and learning as you go. And one day, I closed my eyes while I'm playing, and I noticed there was like a faint image in my mind's eye while I was playing, and I kind of started focusing on that while I was playing, and it's kind of I was kind of able to kind of pay attention to it while I was playing, and it looked like two rows of squares, like black squares. It was not, just kind of vague, but somewhat detailed, right? And as I played, I noticed the focal point moving on that image, and from square to square, and it was. I mean, now it's very common, but back then it was that was a new thing for me. I'd never really seen any kind of diagrams or anything like that. So I realized that this was my brain's attempt to help me see, right, what I was doing. And I kind of realized that the top row of the squares were the blow notes, and the bottom row of the squares were the draw notes, and those would move around. So I used that idea to create a graphical representation of the harp for my first harmonica book that I wrote way back in I think the early to mid 2000s. But now it's pretty common. I use the same approach for the DM48 when I started fiddling around with that to kind of learn it and determine how I wanted to use tunings and whatnot. So here's the image I standardized on for the DM48 harmonica. Um, so this is not, if you look at the notes and the scale degrees there, this is not the standard harmonica tuning. This is a custom tuning, but I just wanted to show the graphical image there. And so there's some stuff that's kind of small there. So the red notes are in the pentatonic scale in one octave, and then the blue dots, those are the pentatonic scales in like the subsequent the octave. In this case, it's the middle octave, and then it goes back to red at the top. That's the third octave, and then the black circle notes. Those are the non-pentatonic. And in this case, this is an Aeolian pentatonic, the minor pentatonic. If you were looking at on a different mode, then those reds and blue circles would be in different locations. But in this case, it's first position. It's the Aeolian pentatonic, right? And so then there's little green triangles in there, and that just shows you where the adjacent scale degrees are. So if you were on that hole 4, the next note would just be slide over one hole, and that's the next note to play. It wouldn't be on the draw note. It's just a little guide. And then there's little gray double arrow indicators to show you where the half steps are. And so depending on what position, right, that we're in and what key we're in, those will move around. So initially, I used the same techniques and strategies that I used for the diatonic harp to learn the DM48. I didn't really worry too much about using the slide. I wanted to emulate how I played the diatonic harp. So I wasn't really a chromatic harp player, so I thought it could be useful at some point, but I was kind of wanted to play it like a diatonic harp. So there's some key differences in how the DM48 plays compared to a diatonic harp. The embouchure, the way your mouth rests or fits on the instrument is quite different. The distance between the holes is quite different. It's more akin to maybe what a chromatic harmonica player would experience, because their holes are kind of a little further apart. But the diatonic harp, the holes are super close together. So it took a little getting used to for that. And then also the airflow is different. When on diatonic harp, you've got it tightened up and really sealed well. Yeah, that's the airflow requirements are quite different than what you see on the DM48. So I had to adapt to the DM48 using its strengths, the things that that it kind of was meant to do to overcome the challenges. So, such as the ability to change the tunings and the setting profiles, and so I went headlong into that, and I just experimented with so many different tunings and configuration settings, and I had spreadsheets, many spreadsheets, and was just reviewing these and looking at them and just mulling them over weeks, and then eventually I kind of decided I was going to add a new tuning, that just the bebop tuning, which is kind of a common custom tuning that regular harmonicas might have, and it has a flatted seventh scale degree built into it. It has the seventh as well, the normal seventh as well, so you can pick either one you want, right? And so here's the bebop tuning, and you can see where there's a flatted seventh and a seventh on the same hole. Right, one is the blow and one is the draw. So I'm still not using the slide. So initially, the adjustment was to pick a tuning with the first built-in extra flat, and so that would avoid the use of the slide for most key mode combinations. If you combine this with the ability to tune the DM48 to any key, it's pretty easy to see the benefits of using this bebop tuning on the DM48, especially for someone who is a former diatonic player. So the slide in this case would have been used to flat the next flat, the second next flat, other than the first built-in flat, right? So this means that you can easily move one or two modes from the built-in diatonic mode that you have. For example, if you tuned a C Ionian, right, you can use the bebop tuning, and there's your flatted seventh to play C Mixolydian without using the slide. Then you can use the slide to and the built-in flatted seventh to play C Dorian, because you would be adding that second next flat using the slide, so you can play C Dorian, which is totally appropriate for blues and jazz, especially if you play the Dorian pentatonic, which is the same as the Aeolian, as we know. So at this point, I'm still thinking mostly like a diatonic harp player. I stuck with the bebop tuning for a couple of months. I assembled some practice exercises based on how I practiced on the diatonic harp. And I began to realize the impact of how changing breath direction affects how various MIDI instrument notes sound as they transition to each other. It's related to the attack sound as each note is played. Now you can adjust this attack on the DM48 using settings on the DM48, and also often you will find settings for that in your MIDI instrument settings on your computer.